All right, let's go to AEW and talk about the new TNT champion. So it's Darby Allin. He defeated Samoa Joe earlier in the main event of Dynamite. So tapos na yung King of Television run, I guess, ni Samoa Joe. Huge pop because it was in Darby's hometown of Seattle, Washington. You guys know my feelings towards the Darby Allin character, so I'm not gonna be doubling down on that anymore. You already know that. Pero ikaw, Ro, what did you think of this Darby Allin TNT win?
I thought it was fun. I am a fan of Darby. I like the way he wrestles. Because I understand what he's trying to do in there. I understand how he tries to work there. So that was pretty good, and he knows how to wrestle the way he wants to wrestle. Well, he knows his way around it. Samoa Joe is a good foil for that as well, syempre, because he is quite the veteran talent. And I am sad though that Joe isn't the king of television anymore. He's only just a TV champion. I thought that was going to be a long run, but I guess it wasn't, and I guess that wasn't in the plans. So uh, it is what it is, and I do think though this is making the eventual Sting and Great Muta match a bigger deal. I don't know. I can't remember if he was involved in this match, but I think that brings in a little more hype.
So that's going to be a trios match, and Darby is involved in that Great Muta match. Ikaw, Emile, did you enjoy the Dynamite main event earlier?
Yes. A few weeks ago they had a match, and that's what I picked for my pick of the week. But in this one, this was also fun. I think it was better than the first match, and the reason why these two work well together is because Samoa Joe really works at his best when he's up against guys who's gonna bump for him, and Darby Allen is exactly the guy for it. And they have a distinct chemistry that I liked, and it shows naman during the match. So I am okay with Darby Allen winning the TNT Championship. And this continues the trend of the TNT title changing when in the new years. So last year, I think nag-change hands din yung TNT Championship. So continuing lang yung trend every new year. So I like this, and I am looking forward to a bunch of really good Darby Allin TNT title matches down the line.
Abangan natin kung may hot potato ulit at Battle of the Belts this year like there was last year between Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. Abangan this weekend. Sticking with AEW, we got Bryan Danielson and MJF going head-to-head in a promo battle earlier where MJF basically laid his stipulations to Bryan na Bryan Danielson has to remain undefeated until February 8. Di ko alam bakit napaka-specific ng date na yun. Pero sabi ni MJF, if Bryan can do that, then he gets his match at Revolution. And then Bryan took it one step further and said, I'll only accept if you let me make the stipulation. And that's how Bryan Danielson wanted to demand yung kanyang match against MJF to be an Iron Man match, a 1-hour Iron Man match. So, Ro, what did you think of MJF demanding these things from Bryan bago siya maging number one contender?
They're rehashing the labors of Jericho from a couple of years ago. And okay lang naman, it has been a couple of years ago, and it was a fun story to get into kasi Babyface works his way up to get the match, diba? That was pretty easily understandable, easy to grasp kind of story, so I don't mind it. I do enjoy the fact that this entire story has now become a rehash of Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan versus The Miz from 2016, where they had their infamous promo showdown or infamous argument, domestic disagreement in talking smack. So obviously MJF is taking the place of Miz this time. Bryan is still Bryan. This time Bryan can actually wrestle and try to expose MJF for being not for not being as good a wrestler as Bryan is. So I like that, and I do think it's going to end up better. I do think MJF is better than The Miz, and I do think the way or the environment that they're in is more conducive to a better story in the end.
I'm actually a fan of the world champion demanding na you have to jump through hoop 1, hoop 2, hoop 3, etc. before you get your championship match. Because as a world champion, I guess you do deserve that type of privilege. But you're the top guy. You're the final boss that everybody's chasing. I'd like to think you do deserve to have some form of power over these challengers who want a shot at your title. But Emile, does the thought of a 60-minute Iron Man match excite you?
Actually, it does, because yung takeaway ko from this is I think it would lead to Revolution having fewer matches than any typical AEW pay-per-view, because
Kaya kala mo lang yun.
if you book an Iron Man match that long, for sure mababawasan yung undercard, and that has been one of our main complaints about pay-per-views with AEW, is that ang sobrang haba ng pay-per-views, sobrang haba ng undercard. So I think this would benefit the pay-per-view in its entirety, because mahaba yung main event eh. So the undercards, they're gonna try to cut it down para hindi din mapagod yung audience. So it's okay for me that the main event is 60 minutes. I mean, it's Danielson and MJF, two of the best workers in the industry right now, and it will also benefit us. It will be a better viewing experience for all of us if the pay-per-view is structured in a way in which the undercard doesn't get too much chunk of the time.
Ikaw, Ro, kasi sabi mo nung Iron Survivor Challenge yung usapan na you're not a huge fan of Iron Man matches, but this is Bryan Danielson we're talking about.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to feel about this, because it is still a 60-minute match, and I didn't like the 60-minute draw that he had with Hangman Page. I thought the rematch that they did was a lot better, because it condensed the story. What I hope here is, as Emile said, I hope that because you're running a 60-minute match, the rest of the show is heavily truncated to sana half of what the usual AEW pay-per-view card is. So that's the hope. I don't know if I'm going to be entertained by a 60-minute match, even though it is Bryan Danielson, one of my heroes. I hope he lays it out in a way that makes it fun and engaging. There is still a point system, so at least that is a lot better off than your typical one fall to a finish match. So at least may konting mas may konting drama pa dun in that kind of setup.